Good evening, dear students. I hope you are all safe and staying at home, doing something beneficial for you. Well, today we are going to study a grammar lesson, relative clauses, sorry, which is in Unit 8, Brain Drain. So, I try to divide this lesson into 3 parts to make things clear for you. The first part is just an introduction to relative clauses. So we are going to see what are relative clauses. I'm going to proceed with this. So let's start with an example here. So the example here is I met the old woman. The old woman lives next door. So here in this example, normally how many sentences do we have? The answer should be 2 sentences. Now, how do we know that there are 2 sentences? Because each sentence here is composed of a subject, for example here I, followed by a verb, the verb to meet in the past, which is met, and the object, which is the old woman, and there is a full stop. The same thing could be said about the second sentence, which is the old woman subject, followed by a verb, and an object. So here we have 2 sentences. Now the question is, can we join these 2 sentences together to get only 1 sentence? Sure, we can do that, and we will get this sentence here. I met the old woman. The old woman lives next door. So, this is the new sentence, and in this new sentence there is a problem, of course, as you may have noticed here. We have the repetition of the words the old woman. It is repeated 2 times, the old woman, the old woman. So, and for this problem normally we need a solution. The solution should be to cross out one of the 3 repeated words here, and to substitute them, or to place another, or to replace them with another word, which is the word who. So after doing so, we get the new sentence here. I met the old woman who lives next door. So as you can see here, we have substituted the old woman by who, and the sentence became I met, or the sentence becomes I met the old woman who lives next door. Great, now let's proceed. Now who, the word who that we use to replace the repeated words, is called a relative pronoun. Now this is what we are going to see in the second part of this lesson. We are going to talk about the different types of relative pronouns that we have. And in English normally we have 6 other relative pronouns, namely which, that, who, when, where, and whose. And concerning these 2 relative pronouns, when and where, normally they are relative adverbs. And we are going to see whose also, which is really important, and whom. So, who is used to refer to a person or people in general. When we talk about human beings or people, we use who. For things we use which, and so on and so forth. We are going to see that later. Now, we have got 2 sentences here joined in 1 sentence. So we have I met the old woman who lives next door. But now we are not going to call them sentences. We are going to change the name into the title of our lesson, which is clauses, relative clauses. So we are going to call them clauses. So these clauses, normally we have 2 clauses. Now we are going to define where the first clause starts and where it stops, and where the second clause starts and where it stops. So the answer is, the first clause starts with I met and ends with the woman. I met the woman. The second clause starts with who and ends with next door. Who lives next door? Now, the question is, which of the two clauses is called a relative clause? Now, the obvious answer is the second clause. Why? Because the second clause includes or has the word who, which is a relative pronoun. So the relative pronoun is used to link the two sentences, to relate them, which gives us the relative clause, which is who lives next door, and the main clause, which is I met the old woman. So the first clause, which is I met the old woman, is called the main clause or the principal clause, because here it can stand alone. It makes sense. I met the old woman, even though we don't know which woman are we talking about, but it is the main clause. We need the relative clause to give us more information about this woman. Which women are we talking about? Now, this is what I said. If you say to someone, I met the old woman, just the first part, it won't make sense to him. He will be a little bit, he wouldn't understand what you are saying to him. So, he will ask such type of questions like, which woman are you talking about? Or who is this woman? And to answer his question, you will say, who lives next door? So this is the relative clause. So we use the relative clause, as I said, to give information about a noun that precedes it. So the second part of the sentence, who lives next door, is the relative clause, and it gives us more information about the woman or the person we are talking about, or it gives us defining information about the person to make our sentence understood clearly. Great. So I hope this introduction was clear enough for you to understand what do we mean by relative clauses. Now, the second part. The second part of our lesson is entitled Relative Pronouns. So, let's proceed with this. We are going to start with this short dialogue between a girl and a boy. The boy, we have, the girl said, the boy is my brother. Now the boy asked the question, which boy are you talking about? Now the girl's answer or response is, he is wearing a cap. Now she is giving him information about which boy she is talking about. Now the meaning is clear. Oh, I see. The boy who is wearing a cap is your brother. Great. Now let's take this sentence here. The boy who is wearing a cap is my brother, or is your brother here. So the word who, what does it refer to? So normally it refers to the boy. It describes the boy, or it defines the boy. Great. So I think now we know that the relative pronoun refers back to the noun it precedes it. Great. Now let's see this chart here. It explains more or in details the types of relative pronouns we have here and their usage, and it gives examples. Now let's start with the first one, which is who. It is used for people. The woman who called yesterday wants to buy the house. So the woman who refers back to the woman. The woman is a person, so normally we use who. Great. The second one is which. Which, the usage of which, it is used for things and animals and objects. So we don't use which with people, we use it just with objects. So let's see these examples here. Did you see the letter which came today? So which refers back to the letter. Which letter came today? I love the puppy which is jumping at the kitchen. Now, which refers back to the puppy. So the puppy is an animal. The letter is an object. So which refers back to things, objects, and animals. Great. Now, whose. Whose is really important too, because we use it when we talk about something we own, something we have. We talk about possessions for people and for animals. Examples. He's a man whose opinion I respect. So, the opinion of who? It's the opinion of this man. It is the opinion of this man, the man's opinion. So, he's the man whose opinion I respect. She's the student whose handwriting is the best in my class. So, the handwriting of this student. So, that's why we say whose. It means the handwriting of this. So here we're talking about something that belongs to someone or something that someone possesses. Well, the next one is who. Who is, nowadays we can use it interchangeably with who. Now, here, it is used for people when the person is the object of the verb. We are going to see that in detail. The example here, the author whom you criticized in your review has written a letter in reply. So here we have whom you criticized. Normally the sentence should be like this. You criticized the author. So you is the subject, criticized is the verb, the author is the object, and whom refers back to the author. So that's why we used whom instead of who. So whom here refers back to the author, and the author is the object of this sentence. Now the last one here is that. That, it is used for people, things, and animal, all of them. And that could be a substitute for who and for which. So here, the girl that we met in France has sent us a card. That, here instead of that we can use who, the girl who we met, or the girl whom we met. So that replaces who or whom here in the sentence. We live in a ground floor flat that backs onto a busy street. That, it refers back to the flat, and instead of that we can use which too. Do you like the cat that is sleeping underneath the table? So also here that refers back to cat, and it could be substituted by which. So as I told you, that could be a substitute for who, for whom, and for which. And it could be a substitute only in restrictive clauses or defining clauses. We are going to see the difference between the two, restrictive or non-restrictive clauses, or defining or non-defining clauses. Now let's give a definition here. What are relative pronouns? A relative pronoun is a pronoun that introduces a relative clause within a complex sentence. In the example here, Mike found the keys that he had lost. So here we have that, which is a relative pronoun. As we said, it can substitute or replace which, the keys which, or the keys that he had lost. So that it introduces the relative sentence, which is, or clause, which is he had lost. And as I have already mentioned, we have who, whom, which, whose, and that, in addition to where and when, which are relative adverbs. Who and whom, subject or object pronoun for people. Now we are going to see the difference between who and whom. They caught the lady who killed her baby. I know the man whom you met. So the first sentence here we have, they caught the lady who killed her baby. So the lady is the subject, killed is the verb, her baby is the object. So who refers back to the lady. Now here we used who. Now here, I know the man whom you met. Now we have you is the subject, met is the verb, and the man should be the object, and whom replaces the man, so here we use whom. And as I told you, even though if you use who here, it is acceptable, it is correct. Sorry. We have which also can be used as a subject or an object pronoun. So I read the book which is on the table. I visited the town which you told me about. Which refers back to the book and refers back to the town. So here, when which is considered or is used as an object, we can also cross it out. We can say in the second sentence, I visited the town you told me about. The same thing here about the first one. I know the man whom you met, or I know the man you met. So when we have who or whom and which, and when they are used as object of the sentence, we can cross them out, or we can use the sentence without them. And sometimes which refers to the whole sentence, like in this example, they were unsuccessful, which is disappointing. What is disappointing here is the fact that they were unsuccessful. So which here doesn't refer back to a noun, but to the whole sentence. Sorry. So whom here is used for object pronoun for people, especially in non-restrictive relative clauses. In restrictive relative clause we use who. So the boy whom you told me about got the best grades in mathematics. That. Now let's go to that. It could be also used as a subject or object pronoun for people, animals, and things in restrictive relative clauses, but not in non-restrictive relative clauses. Who or which are also possible. I like the vase, which or that is over there. So here we can use both which refers back to the vase, and also that, which refers back to the vase. Now we have here relative pronouns who, which, and that. We continue with the same thing. Who and whom or that describe people, and who is used for the subject, he or she, and whom is used for the object, him or her. But a lot of English speakers now just use who in all situations. We have already said that. Now let's look at this example here. Rick married a doctor. He met her on holiday. Now here, Rick married a doctor whom he met on holiday. So he met a doctor. So doctor is an object here. So that's why we used who. Which or that describe things. He gave me flowers. The flowers died the next day. He gave me flowers. Which or that died the next day. Now we have whose, where, and when, and also we have also why. So whose. We use it to talk about possessions, as I already mentioned there before in the previous slides. We have, when we use whose, we have most of the time the possessive adjectives, which are my, your, his, her, its, our, your, and their, followed by a noun. In this example, Kate married a doctor. His father didn't like her. So his father, the doctor's father. So here, when we have the doctor's father, we are going to use whose. Kate married a doctor. Whose father? The father of who? The father of the doctor didn't like her. So here we have his plus a noun, which is the father. Where is used to talk about places, meaning in which or on which or at which. So I can't remember the house where I was born, or I can't remember the house in which I was born, or I can't remember the house which I was born in. Here we use this preposition, we put it at the end of the sentence. When is used to talk about time and dates. So it's the same here. We have meaning in which or on which or at which. So my birthday is the only day when I eat cake, or my birthday is the only day on which I eat cake, or simply my birthday is the only day which I eat cake on. So I hope it's clear. So the last one we have here is what. So what also can be used here to relate sentences together. I liked the flowers which he gave me. I liked what he gave me. Instead of saying the flowers which, I liked what. Here I'm not referring back to the flowers, but I'm talking in general, what he gave me. I remembered the things that he told me. I remembered what he told me. And here we have just some exercise that you are going to do later. You can pause the video and complete the exercises. And after finishing the exercises, we can have a correction. And later, the next video will be about defining relative clauses versus non-defining relative clauses. So this is the third part of our lesson. I'm going to stop here, and next time I'm going to make a video about these two types of clauses. Thank you for your attention, and that's all, guys.